Hey, welcome back everybody. Here we are with ROSCO. Sitting at Matt's place. We're going to take ROSCO over to my place here today. And we're going to get started on putting in a complete air ride system in this. We're going to replace the beam with an airbagged beam, and we're going to start doing the mounts and stuff that are needed to be able to bag the back end. So today we're going to take this over to my place, and we're going to remove the engine transaxle. I have to change out the axle tube. We remove the spring plates. We have some brackets that we're going to have to weld into the back end to support the bags. Put the compressor tank on the wiring, air lines, all that jazz. But this is a project for the next couple of months, which is going to be fun. I've been looking forward to it, and it's going to be a good go. We'll take you along for the ride. Here we go. And it starts. Bumper's off, rear apron's off, and Matt is pulling the exhaust. We're going to drop the engine in the next few minutes, get that transaxle out so we can start setting things up. The fun begins. Here we go. Alright, ROSCO up, so we plucked the engine out of there. We're going to work on getting that transaxle out of there next and keep on going. Here we go. Alright, okay, welcome back everybody. What are we up to here today? So we haven't done much now in just over a week, kind of getting other projects done. Winter's starting to set in, but back in the garage here, Chaz got the rear brake drums off. Had to get a puller to be able to get that off the axle. E-brake cable's disconnected, all the brakes are off, did both sides. Gonna disconnect the brake line up on top of the axle tube, gonna drain some of the fluid, and then we'll be able to get the transaxle out. Once we get that out, Gonna go oversee Joe LaRue, and we're gonna change the axle tubes for a set that are made to do this conversion to bags, which will be a little bit longer axle tubes and axles, and we'll reassemble all that. So we're gonna do that with Joe. We'll get the transaxle out here tonight or tomorrow. Gonna get the swing arms off, and then start prepping for where the bracketry has to go in to weld everything in place. And some stuff gets bolted in, some places get reinforced. We'll take you along for the ride on all that. Here we go. All right, welcome back everybody. We're in the garage with ROSCO. I almost said Chaz. Engine and transaxles out. Remove the spring plates from either side. I'll show those from the outside. And we're cleaning everything up. There's brackets that are going to get bolted on to the two spots at the front of the horn. And we're going to be putting these brackets. This one's going to weld right up inside on the inside of that bar there. We'll get an image of that. Do one of those on either side. And that's where cross braces are going to go in. Once we get that stuff squared away, or at least clamped in, we're going to come into here. So like I said, we've got the spring plates out. Spring plates are off. We have to cut a piece of this off. We have to cut the stop. Can you see that? Yep. I'm going to cut the bump stop off and the old shock thing. We'll clean that outer side of the frame rail. There's a piece that we're going to have to cut out of here, and then there's going to be the new pad that's going to go in here to support the top of the airbag. When the new spring plates go back in, there's a bottom section that will bolt onto that spring plate with the axle to be on the bottom of the bag. And then we'll plumb her in, weld everything up, and be good to go. Here we go. Alright, I'm going to try and explain kind of what we got going on here. We got three parts to this bracket here that will go right into this area. It's going to tuck into the frame there. So this section is going to get cut out. That'll slide in. This groove will go over this frame rail and it'll tuck right in there. This part, a little kind of notch out of it, will go right in against that bottom of the, I'll say frame, that's not really the right term. That'll go right in there against the top of this plate. When it's sitting in that groove, it'll go right there on this bracket and weld into this part and to the bottom of the frame rail and onto this. When this section is gone, this piece will weld in its place kind of back here at the back in place of this. Basically below this line. and along this side, the back side, and reinforce that once all pieces are cut out. That's what I have for a marking. I set that in there. I know that that's got to fit in there above this. That gives me this reference line. What I'm going to have to do, I've already marked where this goes across, touches here. I'm going to cut this just a bit low and cut that piece out. This will slide on. We'll be able to slide in there until we get it sitting in there nice and tight to the back side of this on here, right up tight against the fender, and then we'll be able to trim out, grind back pieces until we have it fitting nice. This piece on top, fitting nice, and the piece here on the bottom down here, fitting nice, and closing out all those pieces. We're going to just tack that top plate in place in the morning. We also have another bracket that goes up inside behind here that I'll show you tomorrow, and we're going to clamp that in place and we'll tack that in place as well. And then we're going to get a certified welder to come and weld all this up nice and solid. You'll see him later this week. Here we go. All right, started trimming out some of the pieces here. Trim that out, cut that out so we can fit the bracket in. This bracket's going to start fitting in place. We had to cut it back a bit more there. Just want to make sure we do it slowly to get the right fit. That's going to fit up nice and snug like that. And we're going to hold it in place with a pairs of vice grips for now.
You're saying these here, right? Front? These little guys?
Yeah. That's Matt.
Oh, sorry, man. I didn't know you're videoing.
That gives an idea of what that's going to sit in there like. It's not perfectly in there yet, of course, but get a pretty good idea how that's going to fit. I'll trim off a little bit of this corner where the vice grips are now, and we'll get this to fit in. We'll check it for being parallel to the rail, and then we're going to start cleaning things up, tacking it in, and keep on trucking. Here we go. All right, welcome back. We're in the back here, ROSCO, and starting to put some of the brackets in. So we just tacked in this bracket up here on the front of this, I don't know what you call this, kind of cross brace. It's like a mustache bar in the late bays, but this is a fixed bar anyway. It goes up underneath the engine, and we tacked that bracket in. The other bracket's going to bolt on the top of the front of the horn there, and then there's another bracket that's tacked in right there that's going to get welded up this week. There'll be, I'll say, cross braces with heim joints that are going to connect this point to the one there. Another one will go from that point to here, and there'll be one that goes across. And that just firms everything up in the back end of the frame area that's carrying the engine and transaxle. So that's going to firm all that up. So we're just putting these pieces in place. We're going to move to the outside and start tacking that in. Here we go. Okay, a little bit of an update in here. You saw the time lapse of kind of welding this bracket in. A little hard to see with the light shining in that direction. That's better there. So you can see the top of the frame there is all, took the bump stop and brackets off, ground everything nice and clean, and give it a nice coating of rust inhibitors in case there's anything that's starting there. And we welded that bracket in place. Still got the little bracket that's going to go up on top on the right side there. Set this down. So you're still going to get a small bracket that's going to weld in here that we're using for measurement. And then there's going to be the one that's going to close out all the way down there too. So we'll weld this in completely, both sides, and the bracket that's up on the inside that I showed earlier. Weld these two little brackets on here and here, get that all welded up, grind it nice and clean. Then we're going to paint everything up, clean everything up, grind the weld smooth, everything else, and then we should be moving on to installing the bags, running the air lines, and getting everything squared away. Let's do it. All right, welcome back everybody. We are in the garage again. Today, just going to be getting things set up here. We got a PO in the garage here today. He's going to be welding in all the brackets that I tacked into place that we've been showing. So he's going to get that stuff finished up. He's a certified welder, and I'll feel a lot better about all the welds that are structural in nature holding this suspension in, if it's done by somebody that is certified to do so. So I'm just going to get things set up, and he'll be welding in the 2 brackets back here and the plates that are on either side. If we can, I'll position and weld in the shock mounts as well, but that might just happen on another day. At any rate, we're going to get these things welded up so that by the end of the week, can grind those welds, get everything painted. This weekend we will do the axle swap on the transaxle down at Joe's, and then we'll be able to put that stuff back in, install the air system, and test fit this thing maybe by the end of the weekend. Let's do it. Go. All right, Pio's setting up to get some welding done. Say hello, Pio.
Hello.
Hello, Pio. He's the certified guy that's going to make the structural work not break, because if I weld it, I'll probably break it. But we're going to be doing some welding, getting all these parts that are tacked in welded in there good, so it's good and safe for the bag to be put in there. Here we go. Here's some of the parts that are going to be going in. These are going to be the brackets that go on the end of the control arms for the bottom of the airbag. Those are brackets that are going to get welded on the inside of the frame there, or on the frame rail for shock mounts. And those 2 little pieces are brackets that get bolted onto the front of those horn, the engine horns. It's going to be awesome. All right, welcome back everybody, back in the garage. Another evening, getting dark, cooling off. But give you a little update what's going on here with ROSCO. So we showed you some of the footage, got everything welded in. So the bracket in here is all welded in. All the hardware to join into here is welded in. These are all components from Dub Fab. The rear swing axle kit, for airbag kit for swing axle. It's nice parts. The fairly simple to install. You can see the bracket that's up in there. As I mentioned, on the front of the two horns, there's going to be a part that's going to bolt in, and we have the bracket up on that side. So what we're going to do tonight is clean everything up and get some paint up underneath there to wrap this up. And we'll probably try and put a link in where you can see some of this kit is for its availability. Of course, we ordered a beam as well, but there's a whole nother story on that. At any rate, we'll keep going. Here we go. Okay, we got any of the areas where we had bare metal kind of cleaned up and welds, got it all kind of painted up. Got a little section here that I didn't bother doing because I'm still going to have to weld in the shock support bracket in there. So I'm still going to have to clean that off, weld that up. I'll clean it off up to the hole there. I'm going to prime it, clamp the bracket in, weld it in, then we'll paint that again. So that'll be done after I fit the spring plate and the I don't know what the bracket's going to be called, bracket with the support for the lower bag. Get that in place, get the bag in place, make sure everything's lined up, have the shock in, line this up. I know it's behind that hole right in there, but there's no measurement for exactly how far back of that, so I'm just going to confirm it with the assembly bolted together, sort that out, make that where I want it, then I can weld that piece in. Probably going to clean up this area up here, just kind of brush it off so that I can paint that whole section up there on both sides. But I got the first coat on. I can't really see anything back here. Bring the light with me. So we got the areas back in here painted up. You can see up in there it's painted nice. Up on that side it's painted nice. So everything that was bare metal and welded up was cleaned up, ground down the welds, and did that. So at the front area there, we're going to clean up in there and paint right down to the torsion tube. And again, back up in this area behind that hole, I'm going to clean that up and position the shock mount. But for tonight, I'm just going to let this dry. I'll probably come out later on and give it a second coat, maybe clean up some of that front area on both sides. Once it's dried up, then I can do a second coat and get that cover break in front. And then it should be good to go. Let's do it. Messed up on some of the video. Didn't capture everything that we were doing. I've got some of the back end here together. We got that kind of triangle piece that's there. That was cut off from that plate that goes in here. So just behind the spring plates, and it's to allow it to travel a little bit higher up. Going to bolt this section in on this side now, and this bottom kind of eyelet there is going to add another one of those kind of cross support bars. That's going to go from that point, which will end up being down here, all the way up to the axle tube itself. I'll tack on the bracket for that and let Pio weld it up later. I'm going to push the boots back to make sure it's not, don't melt the boots when we do that part. We're going to have to weld that in on both sides. Once I get that bolted up, I'm going to move into getting the brakes on. I got a seal to still put on the other side, a few little jobs. And once the welding's done, then I'll get the bags in, hook them to the air lines, run the air lines to the front of the valve, 2 lines back to the bags. Probably get the engine in this weekend. Then we'll take it back to Matt's. Bagged at the back, still riding stock in the front. Lowered, mind you, with spindles. But we have a new beam coming with airbags coming for that. We'll put that in, hook that up, and then our last thing will be tubbing these arches, which we'll probably just do in the spring. But we will get this thing on air. We should be able to test it tomorrow afternoon, evening, and get her back on the road. Well, at least to drive back for winter storage. But let's get putting that stuff together. Here we go. Have a listen to that, Matt. enough pressure. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we got the inner plate here bolted in place to the spring plate. Here's a lower pad for the, you can see that, yeah, you can see that, right? Lower pad for the airbag. Don't have the airbag in yet, and the reason is I gotta weld this little guy somewhere up in here. And that's gonna have to weld in there because it's gonna attach to this guy from the bottom point. So we're just gonna put that into place, get it fitted. So we know where it goes. I'm gonna tack it on here so I can get it welded up. Then I'll drop what I need to in order to get the bags in there, and away we go. So I'll just kind of put this in, show you guys what we're up to. It's pretty big hardware. Sorry that I'm stealing the whole screen for you and like shining on me, but let's get this thing in place. So, that'll go like that. To get that bolt through. This one I can bolt up top, and you'll get an idea where it's got to go. I won't bother filming tacking it together. Sorry this is taking so long already. So that is going to go on here like this. Like that. Put this hardware at the back side of this bracket. Alright, that's just loose as in there. And it's going to get tacked up there just like that. I don't know if you can see that okay. Right up against that bottom bar. I can get a better look. You see it in here. So we're just going to hold that up, or magnet that in there. We're going to tack it in place, and that's going to give us our location. And then we can get that welded in. I want it to be nice and true to the line. It is really, really close to the rubber boot. So we're going to have to do something with that. Get that boot out of the way, and then we can tack that in place. Here we go. All right, we've got the driver's side all set up. So this bar is tacked on. I'm going to install this bar here. Pardon my shakiness. Oops, that's a little warm. We're going to bolt that on there now, and then you'll have a good idea what that looks like. It's nicely lined up, and I got room to shorten it a bit, so we know that we'll get this set up in a good spot to support that bracket. And then we're going to start assembling the other side. Here we go. All right, now we're gonna get a little bit of a look. So we got the rear suspension in place. The support bars on each side are tacked in place. Tacked in place. I'll get those welded up hopefully tomorrow, and then we can take apart what we have to take apart to get the bags put in there, bolt those in place, bolt all this hardware back up, get the boots put on after its welding's done, clean everything up. We got to paint those axle tubes yet, but we want to do that after it's painted or after it's welded. So we'll get all that stuff squared away, and hopefully tomorrow afternoon we're going to bolt all that up. We're going to get the shocks mounted on these little bits here on each side, and they're going to go up on the inside. I still have to finish welding up exactly where the upper shock bracket's going to go. We're just going to make sure we have that lined up nicely, and then we'll be running air lines to the valves to control the airbags. And a few more hours work, we should have this buttoned up. Let's do it. All right, here we go again. Did get a bit of work done. I don't remember exactly what last section it was that I filmed, but the transaxle in there. We've got the tabs on the bottom here welded on both sides, so we can put the support bars in. Don't have the support bars put in just yet because I'm gonna have to drop that plate in order to put the bag in. Transaxles in place, all bolted in. So the shifter, everything bolted up the front. I hooked the ground strap, a couple little things. Brake lines are going to go in on the tubes. Gonna work on a few of those things today. Then I'm going to work on plumbing, I think. Get more of the airbag lines put in place. I'm gonna have to lift the front end to be able to have room to do it up there, but we're gonna work on that today while we got a nice afternoon. Sun's nice, it feels good and warm in the garage, and the engine's back. So if things go well, I will put the engine in place. Here we go. All right, let's take a look at what we got going on here. Got the airbag in place. Line's gonna run from this around this post. We'll secure it a few spots so that's got not gonna get all chafed up. And it'll go to the front of the bus to the valve. But that's one airbag secured in place there. You can see it very good from there, but better from here. Gotta see the bag right up in here. Bottom as well. How's that? See that there okay? The axle tube secured in here. We're gonna have one more cross brace that's gonna go across here, and the airbag is in place. Brake lines are run, everything's secured. We gotta, of course, bleed the whole system, but we're gonna change out the master cylinder as well while we're in here, and go from there. But it's coming along. I'm gonna get the bag in on the other side now. Here we go. Alright, starting to run the line in, so I'm kind of crawling around doing some there. So we got the main line, going to connect it up in here, and running underneath the bus through what would have been the heater channel space underneath there. And then we've got it coming up in behind the dash up here, and it is sticking out right there to the dash. So we're going to mount these underneath the dash, and that in-favorite line is going to come here. We'll run two more lines out of these to the back bags, and then we can put the wheels on, set her down, and give her a test. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Back in the garage. Sunday afternoon, snowstorm outside, and we're doing that. So I piddled around in there, I filled the transaxle with oil again. Put the starter in place, connected all the leads for that. Ran the fuel line from the tank. Put the shocks on. They're in there now. We did test the system. Everything's functioning well. Once I get the engine in place, going to run a new fuse lead for the main power to the switch unit right from the starter. And we're going to put another lead that goes right from the coil for when the key's on to activate the pump. That should take care of all that. The rest of it's pretty simple, ground and such. Pretty straightforward. The air lines are all good. I pressurized everything last night, let it sit for 14 hours or 16 hours, and it was still sitting real nice. The pressure gauges were good, and looks pretty sharp. So we're gonna plug this sucker in. Let's do it. Engine is back in. Still got it bolted in, but it's dropped right into its spot there. Had to turn the rotate the engine just a little bit for it to slide in. And a couple things left. Hook up the fuel lines, connect all the electrical. Gonna leave the wheels off. Gonna bleed the brakes still. Gonna get a hand with that probably tomorrow after work. Bleed the brakes, and I'll start running the permanent electrical. We're going to do a fuse link from the starter to the main power for the pump, air pump, and we're going to put a switch power connection and connect the ground, secure a few of those things so nothing rattles and vibrates around in there anymore, and that'll be it. But it's coming together. Here we go. All right, going to show you a little test here, Matt. All right, MJ, let him down. All the way down. Good. And bring it back up.